Morning. Good morning. I think we agreed it's still morning everywhere, most places. Let the room load. Give it a minute. I think we have a nice group already. So, hello. Welcome to the Center of Excellence for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultations Conference, Equity from the Start. My name is Angela Keys, and I will serve as your session facilitator. I'm joined by Sarita, who will serve as our technology host. This session is being recorded. Transcription is available through the Zoom platform. And should you have any questions, feel free to relay your questions in the chat. We also want to let you know that before we begin, that the views, policies, and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of SAMHSA or HHS. Today's session, we have Kelly Kelser, Erin Henderson-Lacerdo, and Ashley Bowers. And that said, I'd like to pass it over to them and have them conduct their workshop.
Thank you so much, Angela. Hello, good morning, everyone. I am happy to be here with some dear colleagues, Kelly and Erin, to speak with you all today. You hopefully know you're attending the session, The Tale of Three AIMHs, the essential role of peer support in embedding equity, systems building, and workforce development efforts. So we'll start off just introducing ourselves. Kelly, if you want to move us to the next slide. I am Ashley Bowers. I am the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Director with the Wisconsin Alliance for Infant Mental Health. And I am, within my role, I am supporting our programs, our agents, Healthy Minds, Healthy Children, Infant Early Childhood Mental Health Program, as well as Pyramid Model. And then I'll talk a little bit more about WI-AIMH in depth, but want to turn it over for the moment for Kelly and Erin to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Ashley. My name is Kelly Seltzer. I work with the Association of Infant Mental Health in Tennessee as the IECMH Consultation Coordinator, supporting all of our grants and projects around infant mental health consultation. And like Ashley said, we will talk more about our AIMHs in a minute. But Erin, you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Aloha. Good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Henderson-Lacerdo. I come from the Association for Infant Mental Health in Hawaii. You'll hear Kelly and I both refer to ourselves as AIMH HI because we have very similar letters in our organization's names. And I'm currently serving as the executive director for our organization. And we will move into our learning objectives next.
Yes. And I appreciate some people are introducing themselves in the chat. I definitely encourage that. I think these are great opportunities, as we'll even talk about here, to network with each other. So welcome you all sharing your names and information in the chat so you guys can get connected. And we'll, of course, share our information at the end, too, if you have follow-up questions for us or just other opportunities for us to connect later. Today, our focus for the next 50 minutes, which I know will go super fast, is to speak with you a little bit more about the role of AIMHs, so Alliances for Infant Mental Health, as a professional development home for infant and early childhood mental health professionals across sectors, but more specifically, obviously, in this context, we're also really talking about consultants. It is also hopefully an opportunity for you to gain a greater understanding of the relationship and the role that the endorsement credential plays with consultation and how it can support equity within workforce development. And then also just an opportunity for us as respective AIMHs to share a little bit about our own lessons learned as far as engaging stakeholders and just the process that we've each had in developing our respective consultation systems. next, we want to take a quick moment to actually poll this group. So just to hear a little bit more about who we have in this audience and to just garner a little bit of understanding of how familiar you may already be with endorsement. So in a moment, you're going to see a poll pop up. Hopefully everyone's pretty familiar with polling within Zoom platforms now. Just click and answer your question, and you'll see it populating right here as well. Just kind of seeing who's in our audience. Like we got a lot of consultants, which is wonderful. Other direct service providers, administrators, systems leaders. Wonderful. All right. So we're filled with consultants, about half this group. That is so wonderful. I'm really happy to have providers, administrators, and systems as well. So you'll see that in just a moment. And now next, we just want to get a little gauge for how familiar you all are with endorsement. So the focus of our session today is to dive deep into the logistics of endorsement, but we of course make sure we at least have some foundational understanding. One is on the same page. Okay. So wow, pretty even split it's looking like between, we have a whole range of knowledge within this group. So some people that are a little less familiar with the credential, those of you that are much more familiar. Again, the focus of this particular presentation isn't to go in depth specifically just an endorsement. That honestly could be its own presentation, but we definitely hope to give you enough knowledge so you can understand what the credential is and how it can be supportive building a consultation workforce. But again, we'll welcome and share other resources with those of you that are not familiar with endorsement. And then if you do hail from a state in which holds the endorsement credential, we can always help get you connected with who those people might be if you're interested in pursuing your professional credential.
All right, so we're going to set the stage by discussing what an Association of Infant Mental Health is. You might hear us refer to it as an AIM. And we're going to discuss kind of the history of AIMH Hi, Hawaii, WI-AIM and AIMH Hi Tennessee. And I'll try my best to say AIMH Hi Tennessee so we don't get confused with Hawaii. And then later on, we'll examine the role of endorsement as a pathway to consultation. So we'd first like to acknowledge that we are representatives of our respective AIMs. We are not representing or speaking on behalf of the Alliance for the Advancement of Infant Mental Health, but we did wish to provide you with some context to our relationship to the Alliance by sharing this information. So the Alliance for the Advancement of Infant Mental Health is a global organization that partners with associations of infant mental health, or AIMs, so that associations can support, grow, diversify, and advocate for their local infant and early childhood mental health informed workforce. And it's made of multiple state and country AIMs, as you can see here on the screen. So AIMs partner with the Alliance by purchasing the license to provide the endorsement credential within their respective states. And this map shows in green where endorsement currently lives, those AIMs that hold endorsement, and then the blue are those states that are in the discovery process. And then you can also see our friends in Japan, Ireland, and Australia are our global partners as well. So what does endorsement mean? Well, the full name, the Endorsement for Culturally Sensitive, Relationship-Focused Practice Promoting Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health, or IECMH Endorsement, is an internationally recognized credential that supports and recognizes the development and proficiency of professionals who work with or on behalf of infants, young children, and their families. Endorsement is not a certification. We want to make you aware of that. It's not a certification, but it is based on a set of competencies designed to support and enhance culturally sensitive relationship-focused practices within the framework of infant mental health work. So an applicant can demonstrate acquisition of those competencies through education, work, specialized training, reflective supervision experiences, things like that. And you can see on the screen here, there are 5, well, it's, yeah, the bullet points. So 5 different pathways to endorsement focused on an individual's scope of work across the continuum of infant mental health work. So you can see those that work in promotion, those that might work in prevention or early intervention, those that might work in clinical intervention or treatment, and then those that work kind of at the macro or systems level perspective. And we refrain from referring to these as levels or categories to avoid perceptions of a hierarchy, because we do honor all of the expertise across the continuum and the important work done in all of these areas. So endorsement is intended to recognize experiences that lead to competency in the infant and young child family field. So those experiences, like I said before, might be education, training, reflective supervision, and work experience. Endorsement can verify knowing by requiring an applicant attain certain levels of education or participating in specialized in-service training. It can verify doing by requiring that an applicant works to deliver high quality, culturally sensitive, relationship-focused services to infants, young children, parents, or other caregivers. And endorsement verifies our way of being by requiring that an applicant receive guidance from qualified reflective supervisors and consultants. And later on, we will discuss how endorsement can support infant mental health consultation. But now I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley to introduce you to WI-AIM and some of their work.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. I do appreciate, I think when I was speaking earlier, I might have gotten a little spotty, so I'm hopeful my internet's going to cooperate with me. If I start to glitch a little bit, though, I might just try turning off my camera so that you can hear me a little more clearly. But yes, as Kelly said, I wanted to just speak a little bit more about the Wisconsin Alliance for Infant Mental Health specifically, both our agency and our consultation program, and then Kelly and Erin will introduce the same for their respective AIMHs. So for Wisconsin specifically, our agency was established in 2001. We are a nonprofit organization. We started as a very, very small organization with just 2 to 3 professionals and have since grown. Actually, even since I did the slides for this, we are now up to 23 professionals within our organization who are working in varying roles, helping to programming and professional development that supports Wisconsin's infant and early childhood mental health workforce. So we do that in a couple of different ways. WI-AIM does provide the pyramid model for the state of Wisconsin. We also, as I mentioned, have new this year, Healthy Minds, Healthy Children, which is our Wisconsin infant and early childhood mental health consultation system that I'll talk about a little bit more in depth momentarily. And then we have another project called The Power of Connection. I linked our website there specifically to The Power of Connection. This was a really fun project that we did where we received some funding to really develop a digital, social, and emotional exhibit to celebrate the first 5 years and the important role adults play in relationship to young children in supporting their social, emotional health and well-being. So it's a really wonderful resource for professionals, but actually was really designed and geared a little bit more toward parents to help and support them in understanding early childhood development. And again, that important role that they're playing in supporting their children's social and emotional growth. WI-AIM also provides a reflective supervision learning collaborative. This is a program to support professional development in the provision of reflective supervision. Like endorsement and the field as a whole, it is multidisciplinary. So different professionals, who are within roles that they would be supporting reflective supervision. We have home visiting supervisors, birth to 3, as well as consultants and clinicians themselves. We've actually more recently also had some ECE directors, which it has been a wonderful addition in providing and supporting the reflective capacity of our early care education workforce. WI-AIM then also puts on an annual Wisconsin conference, the Wisconsin Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Conference. We've been holding that every fall. In recent years, it used to be offered in the summer. Recently, since COVID, we've also been alternating between a virtual and in-person conference. This past October, it was virtual, which has been nice in affording us the opportunity to have a wider audience join us. And then this upcoming October in 2024, we will be back to in person as well. And then to just take a minute to talk more specifically about Healthy Minds, Healthy Children, Wisconsin's Infant Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation System. WI-AIM received funding in January of 2023 through ARPA dollars awarded to us from the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families to build an infant and early childhood mental health consultation system for the state. As the funding was made available through the American Rescue Plan Act fund, so the ARPA fund, our initial focus right now of consultation is the early care and education workforce. But the primary goal for WI-AIM is actually, and the state, is to grow this program into a universal model for our state. So being able to eventually serve through establishing sustainable braided funding all sectors that might be working with or on behalf of young children birth to 5. So we have small pockets of consultation happening right now in our state for like home visiting and birth to 3 and things like that, but we don't have a consistent way of uniting consultants across sectors, which is a major goal of our program development. The scope of our current funding is very ambitious because it is ARPA dollars. It was awarded in January of 2023 and goes through June of 2024. So we've been developing this program in 18 months. When we talk about lessons learned and things later, I will always highly recommend you get more time if you're able to, because it is very challenging to build a program in such a short period of time as well as implement. However, you know, as we all probably have experienced, you also do what you can when you can. And so we've been poised within our state to develop this program for many, many years through advocacy efforts, and are excited to be able to get started with this generous ARPA funding. So the program goals of this initial first phase, as I kind of like to call it because it's a part of a bigger dream, is to develop and administer a statewide infant early childhood mental health consultation system. We also have really reserved a good portion of our funding for building the capacity of
I think we might have lost her. Do you want to move on to Hawaii, Erin?
Yes, so sorry, Ashley. If you can hear us, you are frozen on our side, and we will revisit your slide when you rejoin us. Okay, so I'm going to share next about the Association for Infant Mental Health in Hawaii. And we are a nonprofit headquartered here in Honolulu, and we serve the entire state, which is comprised of 8 islands. And our mission, we actually have updated it also since we did these slides, but really is to be the central home for infant and early childhood mental health in our state. And so we do a lot of work around in 3 kind of different pillars. And one of those is professional development, and another is consultation. And lastly is, but not least, is of course, system integration of infant and early childhood mental health. And so we were originally called First Relationships. That was our very first name. And even though our name has changed, our foundation really hasn't. And so relationships really is the way in which that we would like to continue to create the field. And one of our goals is to create a network of professionals who serve our youngest. And so just like in a friendly neighborhood, we know who to turn to when we need to borrow a lawnmower or borrow some paint or borrow or see if somebody can check the mail while we're gone on a trip or get some orange juice for us if we're sick. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do is to create a community that shares the same values and can have a network of support of professionals across the state who know each other, who be in relationship with one another, and have that greater purpose of caring for the babies who in turn are being cared for by their caregivers. And sorry, I see that Ashley Ashley has returned. So before we move on, Ashley, did you want to finish up your section?
Yes, sorry everyone. I'm not sure exactly when I got cut off before I just crashed altogether. But I think I was just sharing the program goals of our effort. And again, the key points there is really the development of the program itself, but workforce development being a key piece, as well as ongoing sustainable funding. The last little bit that I'll maybe share about our program is that we're using a model that really has a heavy emphasis on parallel process. So utilizing mentors to support our developing workforce, because Wisconsin does have a decent amount of consultants, maybe compared to some others, but certainly workforce development is a key priority for us, as well as the diversification of that workforce. And we appreciate the important role that mentors can play in supporting a developing workforce. And then, just the other key points, our focus again is the ECE. So we are working with licensed and license exempt programs, as well as home-based programs right now, looking to expand that beyond June of 2024. And I think I'll leave it there for now, but can address other questions that anyone may have about the details of our programming later. Thanks, Erin. Sorry for the disruption.
No problems. No, sorry. That's a little. It's always dysregulating when our internet decides to have a mind of its own. Okay, so actually, we can go to the next slide, Kelly. Thank you so much. I'll really briefly share, because we will be going over this a little bit more in detail in our presentation. But I really wanted to just kind of highlight one of the pieces that's really important for consultation that AIM High has, contributed, but not really, more like collaborated with. In early 2020, we worked alongside the Alliance as well as the Center of Excellence for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation to create a crosswalk between the two sets of competencies, one for infant early childhood mental health and one set of competencies for consultation in this specific field. And so we keyed in on the idea that a competency-based system may be the path forward for Hawaii, as well as maybe others in the field as well. And so although it took a few years, I like to say that we started this crosswalk process when I was a mother of one, and I was able to have the entire gestational period and 1 year postpartum before we finished the crosswalk. So it was very exciting to be able to see it finally completed in the past month, I believe, and is on the Center of Excellence's website. We'll be sharing a little bit more about how this crosswalk has applied into the work that we're doing for building out our consultation system in a little bit, but for now, we'll turn it back to Kelly.
Thanks, Erin. So the Association of Infant Mental Health in Tennessee, or AIMHi Tennessee, was established in 2016 and officially became a 501c3 in 2017. It was born out of a grassroots infant mental health effort that started in 2010 to discuss opportunities for infant mental health in Tennessee. So we've really come a long way in a very short period of time. AIMHi Tennessee has grown from a staff of 1, our ED, in 2016 to 27 full-time paid staff this year, and that number will soon grow again. So you can see our mission there on the screen, much like AIM HI and WI-AIM. We provide training, technical assistance, resources, advocacy, and other types of resources to the professionals that work with infants, young children, and families. So unlike WI-AIM, AIMHi Tennessee does not have a vision to hold the consultation workforce, but to support the building of the system and support the workforce. So a little, very briefly, about some highlights in our consultation story in Tennessee. I mentioned prior to what you see started here, this is just the last 5 years, but prior to this, there was a lot of infrastructure building. But in 2018, Tennessee was chosen to be a part of the second cohort of the 0 to 3 Financing Policy Project. And the work of that project led to the development of an advisory document detailing best practices and next step recommendations to establish an infant mental health consultation system in Tennessee. And that information was developed through landscape analysis, literature review, and interviews with peer states. And today, all of the recommended steps from that advisory document have either been completed or are in progress. So we are proud of where we have come in that short amount of time. But in 2021, alongside kind of some of our system building efforts in the 0 to 3 Financing Policy Project, the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services funded the expansion and scale up of one of our local IECMHC programs. And so AIMHi Tennessee found itself in a position to support this program through some targeted training, technical assistance, and reflective supervision provision. We were also at that time selected to participate in the Packard Foundation TA through 0 to 3, which is, I think I'll talk about this on the next slide, but kind of one of our connection points between our 3 states. So consultation was beginning to grow in 2021. And because of the foundational work that had been done for several years prior, the Tennessee IECMH field was ready for it. We were primed to respond. And so we've really been moving from a place of dreaming for the last few years into a place of doing now. So our consultation coordinating council, born out of our financing policy work, began meeting in early 2022 with the support of Megan Schmelzer through the Packard TA. That same year, our Department of Health allocated funds through ARPA to produce IECMH support for our EBHB sector. And so then in this year, through all of those efforts, we saw the launch of the Tennessee IECMH Warmline and ECHO programs, which support our, the ECHO is a training and community building effort for our EBHD programs. And then the Tennessee IECMH Warmline is a support for our EBHD sector, our early childhood educators, and we're exploring some other different sectors that we can expand that to. But our Warmline is really intended to be a place where professionals can come and have a no wrong door approach to infant mental health services, be that consultation or clinical interventions or whatever supports they may need. It's a place to experience some reflective discussions around what they're seeing in the field and how they can best support their clients. And so we saw the launch of that this year and are excited about that expansion as well. And then another unique feature of Tennessee is that, like I said before, we don't envision holding the consultation workforce unlike, say, WI-AIM, and we don't have a state coordinator position for consultation. And so we have really been wrestling with how do we create sort of a unifying structure for our consultation programs. And so we decided to pursue a hybrid model of program support. So that will look like a training and technical assistance hub held by AIMH HI Tennessee to really support the development, expansion, and workforce support for our consultation programs across the state with the support of our coordinating council. So you might be wondering why these three states? Why are Hawaii, Tennessee, and Wisconsin here? We are all connected through an ad hoc group that was developed by the Alliance. The Alliance provided a venue for AIMHs to connect over IECMH consultation, and we chose to take advantage of that. And so we've been meeting together over the last couple of years to really learn more about what we're each doing and have the opportunity to bring that information back to our own state. We also later learned that we're in the same cohort for the technical assistant from 0 to 3 from the Packard Foundation. So we're in the same cohort, and I believe all supported by Megan as well. Is that right, Ashley? Yeah, so we're all supported by the same technical assistant advisor as well. So that was kind of another little connection point for us. But this opportunity to connect really gave us a place to discuss openly what our challenges were, float ideas, discuss strategy, figure out what are others doing, what are some creative ways that others are responding to similar challenges. And though we are all in different places with our state systems, we do experience some common challenges. And so we've been able to take some of that information back to our own states and also just find some camaraderie in each other and in our common challenges and successes. So Erin's going to speak more on some of those challenges related to workforce development.
All right, thank you so much for that, Kelly and Ashley. What we're going to move into now is kind of, Kelly set us up nicely, right? We're all connected. Like, why are the three of us connected? And as the two of them were speaking, it just really reminded me of how varying our states are in their development of the consultation system, as well as the availability of the workforce. So as Ashley mentioned, in their state, they have quite a number of consultants. Hawaii really does not have many mental health consultants, nor do we have many mental health providers. And so we're kind of right in the middle almost of where Wisconsin and Tennessee, well, in some places on the new to the field portion, and in some other ways we're all kind of doing our own consultation systems in very different ways, but yet very aligned as well. So a few of the things that we tended to, I guess, gather around a few topic areas. One was mental health licensure. And really that also falls under that category of who can be a consultant, right? And I think that was kind of one of our overarching questions that we constantly kind of came back to. And we would talk quite frequently about like, who can be a consultant? And since Wisconsin did have an already kind of in motion consultation system, we had some lessons learned from their system that for Hawaii that we were able to incorporate and think through. It was really nice to have a thought partner with the different ways of looking at the consultation workforce. And so one of the areas, like I had mentioned, was mental health licensure, right? So this availability of the workforce. Who is in each of our states providing this work currently? Is there a gap? Who could that be? And how is this need currently being met? And so these were some of the things that we had discussed. Another area was and is diversity. As we know, there's systemic issues around the access to higher education, especially for those for people of color. And so there are many ways in which this shows up, especially in our early childhood workforce, where there really is challenges in having a workforce that is reflective of the children in our programs. And so there's this discussion on, well, how do we help our mental health consultation workforce also look a little bit more reflective, reflective of the children in the programs. We also have this need or desire to recognize that there are many professionals in the field who have been doing this work for a very long time, and they do not have that mental health degree. And how do we acknowledge and support the work that they're doing, recognize the work that they're doing, and still uphold the field of IECMH consultation in particular? So of course, that lends us to our last question of who can be a consultant? And for each of us in our respective states, we're still having discussions with our state partners. Some are a little more further along with like what is kind of, I don't want to say set in stone, but more set in how consultants are being defined. And for some, you know, it's still very much in development. In Hawaii, it's very much in development right now. We are getting to a place where our state partners are going to start putting pen to paper with the putting out of RFPs for what consultation will eventually look like here. And we're shaping the conversation around what does get put down in terms of qualifications for who can be a consultant. What research has shown us is that licensure does not necessarily improve outcomes for children. We also know that mental health is just as universal as physical health, right? I went to a presentation recently and they said, put the head back on the body. And I was like, absolutely, right? We so often separate the mind from the body, and yet in reality, they all work together in one whole. And so how can we care for both, right? We have many ways of caring for our physical health. Why don't we have many ways of caring for our mental health? And so each of our AIMHs were able to lead discussions with our state partners in defining the consultant, their scope of service, and then also to offer that professional development to cultivate the consultants that are best fit for their system. And so I will turn it back to each of my colleagues here to share just a little bit about how their AIMH is supporting the workforce, the consultation workforce in particular. First, back to you, Kelly, and then to Ashley. And then I'll wrap it up this portion with what AIMH Hi is doing to support the consultation workforce.
Thanks, Erin. I'm going to be real brief here because I'm looking at our time, but I think I gave a spoiler in discussing our IECMHC Council. So that is really how we are looking to, or the hub rather, our training and PA hub. That's really how we're looking to support our consultation workforce, provide a level of consistency and fidelity among our programs, and really be able to have conversations within our council about these issues. Like Erin said, we're really kind of on the front end of these conversations, have not made hard decisions yet, but are having these conversations about how to provide pathways to consultation, and the work of our training and TA hub will be to produce best practice recommendations for our consultation programs in Tennessee. And as a part of that, we hope to see some sort of training pathway or competency-based system for consultation. But those are definitely still conversations that we are having.
Yes, very briefly, WI-AIMH is working with the same effort as of right now. Our criteria for consultants is licensed or licensed eligible. But as we're supporting the professional development of consultants, we're simultaneously also putting a lot of focus on supporting professional development of clinicians, because we appreciate, as we pull from the therapeutic workforce to have enough capacity within consultation, that we also need to build up our therapeutic workforce. So we're working with other universities and professional development partners to connect with professionals, help them understand a career pathway, both for therapy and consultation. Within our state, we're also very fortunate to have a infant and early childhood mental health capstone program, which trains specifically in infant and early childhood mental health. And so within all of that, we're really trying to explore, similarly to other states, looking to endorsement and the crosswalk, which Erin will talk about momentarily, as well, to really help inform what do the competencies look like to be a consultant, and yeah, where there's benefits and potential unintentional barriers that licensure may be executing in developing the workforce.
Thank you so much, ladies. Here in Hawaii, we are doing quite a bit of work, and we can regarding development of consultants as well. And so we'll move next to the crosswalk, and I'll share as I go as well about what Hawaii is doing to contribute to our, or AIMH Hi, I should say, is contributing to the Hawaii consultation workforce. So some of the things that we are doing is really helping to educate our state partners around endorsement, not necessarily just endorsement, but the competencies for infant and early childhood mental health. We really do view, as the Alliance shares, the infant mental health endorsement system is one of the first and most comprehensive efforts nationally and internationally to identify best practice competencies across disciplines and practice settings, offering multiple career pathways, professional development in the infant and early childhood and family field. So really it is designed to create a competency based system that can guide the education, the training of our workforce. The goal of endorsement and the competencies really is to create alignment, shared expectations, shared language, and does provide that community and network where we can share ideas. We also recognize that endorsement helps to provide a pool of professionals with that affirmed knowledge, training, and work experience that can really guide and create our consultation systems wherever we may be. And some of the things that are really important and discussions that we've been having, especially here in Hawaii, is really defining what is the bar that we are trying to set for our consultants. If we're looking at a system of consultants, do we really, what do we know about outcomes related to licensure only? What do we have related to competency-based professionals? And of course, you know, a hallmark of the field of IECMH is reflective supervision. And mental health licensure, quite honestly, does not require that. And so how do we then put together the best of both worlds, as I like to say, the best of both worlds in terms of mental health and infant and early childhood mental health, and blending that with consultation? And so we really are aiming in Hawaii to create a competency-based consultation system as opposed to a licensure-based consultation system with a network of consultants that span the gamut of IECMH services, from prevention and promotion to treatment and macro support. So that leads us to the competencies, which is on the next slide, the crosswalk, of competencies. And this is why this crosswalk is really important for us here in Hawaii, because what it does is gives us the opportunity to create a system that can blend together the consultation competencies as well as the endorsement competencies, and create a gold standard for us in terms of what we see IECMH consultation to look like through aligning those two sets of high quality competencies. This helps us to see where these competencies overlap as well as where they differ. That gives us a roadmap for each individual consultant to identify what areas could they grow in professionally, whether that means further training and education, more experience, more support, or macro type of systems work as well. And so this does increase the accessibility of high quality consultation to the greater community, especially in our rural areas that are very hard to reach with professionals from all fields, honestly. We have some places where specialists, including dental and optometry, they need to get flown in. And I'm sure many of you have communities like that as well. And so how can we then provide high quality IECMH consultation to communities that are challenged already with the resources that are there? So we are working to establish a rostering system that can recognize and build a diverse workforce by once again basing it on competencies as opposed to licensure. And that doesn't mean that there's not a place for licensure. We do have a system that we are going to be implementing that includes consultation where you are an in-progress consultant, so that we can scaffold your growth and development into a fully qualified mental health IECMH consultant. And once again, basing that on the competencies between endorsement and the Center of Excellence for Consultation. So we just have a few moments left. So I'm going to quickly go over our next few slides, which is that we have together between the three of us been able to integrate ideas and voices from the field in our work alongside one another. At AIMH Hi, we've done what we call our consultation intensive, some training for consultants, and that has helped us to identify areas that we can share with others. In each of the other states, they have other mechanisms for families and providers to be able to provide input into the greater system development. And so we did want to also give a few tips here on the next slide about how to engage some stakeholders. So I'll just, once again, sorry, my colleagues, we're supposed to be splitting this, but I'll just go ahead and go through it quickly since we have a few moments left. But just really to remember, the tips that we've given is really to build your foundation. Spending that time to go slow, to go fast, was really beneficial in Tennessee, for example, where that time spent building relationships was really pivotal in when to be able to access opportunities when they arrived. Here in Hawaii, relationship-based work is really all we do in every profession. And we truly believe that building connection, listening, and developing trust is important to systems development. And in Wisconsin, it's just really being okay with being different. There are different ways and different ways that things will show up and how people will respond. And sometimes funding will drive where you start as well as where you can go. And so we do have a few strategies there that we wanted to just kind of give you if you would like to learn a little bit with us. And then our last piece that we'd like to end with is just that whether you have an AIM that is in a state that is an alliance state, there is a connection to endorsement, to workforce development strategies, and creating that network of providers. And that really is the function that AIMs do have in pretty much every state. And so we do hope that you can see if your AIM can support you in your role as a mental health consultant, that AIMs really are well situated to assist in the creation and delivery of a consultation system, and are more valuable, through their availability to work with other AIMs so that we can cross-pollinate ideas, support one another, network, brainstorm ideas, and take actionable next steps together. And so with that, I think we are 1 minute left, so we can just show our contact information. We thank you so much for being a part of our workshop this morning. And if you do have any questions about not necessarily any of our states, any of us as people, but if you have any questions or anything that we can provide you with, please do reach out. And I saw a question in the box about Michigan. Yes, Michigan does have an AIM, and in fact, Michigan is the birthplace of endorsement. So I really welcome you to inquire about what some of what supports might be available to you through your AIM. And if your state does not have one, you may have a different kind of a home that you might be able to go to as well, or visit another state. AIMH's website, there's lots of information and virtual trainings available as well. All right, anything else, ladies, before we wrap up?
No, thank you all so much. And again, just echoing, we would love to hear from you. So if you have questions, we have a community that we're working together nationally. So if you need, again, help connecting within your own state, we can't promise, but we may know somebody and it can definitely help.
What a wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing with us how you've all collaborated across so many different states to do this work and advance equity in this work. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining.